Hi, my name's Keith Cooper of Northlight Images. Apologies for the personal audio here. I've had a really bad cold for a week or so, not been doing much in the old videos, but I thought I'd give this one a go because it is exactly 20 years since I more or less officially gave up using film. What does that mean? It means that I effectively took up doing professional photography 20 years ago. Now, as part of that, I went off for a month and drove around Colorado and related areas taking photos, partly to get familiar with this, the Canon 1DS. This is the camera I took with me. This EF 70-200 lens is also the same lens I took. This one has passed the test of time and I still use it. Now, this 2470, EF 2470, it's on a 5DS here. Now, this particular one here, I had this at the time, didn't use it much. I dropped it and got it repaired, and I got replaced the lens by Canon, and the one I got was such a good example that I've kept it. Now, lens variation, there's probably less variation in lens quality these days, but that's just a bit of background. Some of the things I'm going to cover, I'm going to look at some pictures. I'm going to look at the idea of going back to your old pictures for inspiration, to see how things have changed, to see what you mean perhaps by some of your photography, what's important to you. Have some things changed? Of course they should have done in 20 years. Now, on the technical side, I'll cover some technical aspects as well, but as you'd expect, 20 years is a long time in digital photography. This is 11 megapixel here. Very nice camera to use though, but still only 11 megapixel. This one here is 50, and this currently I'm using, this is a Fuji GFX 100S, 100 megapixels. So yeah, that's the obvious thing. What did they replace? Well, the decision of this particular trip was not to take this with me. This is one of my OM2s. This is a 2, not a 2N. And I was in two minds when I went on the trip as to whether I ought to take film camera with me just for backup or just in case. And I decided not to. And that, I never bothered taking this with me ever again. So I got this and some others. I really perhaps ought to get rid of them these days because I understand they're quite, people use them quite a bit and they're collectible to some extent. But the key is I took this camera with me. What's changed from a technical point of view? Well, obviously 11 to 100 megapixels and on. The software has changed a lot. I went through the entire lot of photos I took yesterday when I was there. And I think there's probably a couple of thousand. I was there just over a month. And, just driving around places as I felt. And I will show some photos because I went through them. There are some photos I probably have not properly looked at since I took them. There are a few you may recognise from some of my videos because they are ones I took, I liked, I still like. What real differences do I notice? I should have taken more photos. I was still in that frame of mind, having shot film for years, of not taking pictures unless I was really quite serious that, yes, this could potentially make an interesting picture. I can see sometimes where I just went, yeah, I like this view, and took half a dozen or so. Today, I would take more photos. There are far fewer social photos. There were no phone cameras then. Or at least not, I didn't have anything with it, what I'd call a decent quality camera. But this is probably one of the first shots I took after I flew out to Denver, drove down stayed at a motel near there, drove down to Colorado Springs and headed off into the mountains. And this is the Garden of the Gods near Colorado Springs, and there are the mountains in the background. Now, this is at the end of April. And as you can see, there's still a bit of snow blowing off the top there. That just sums up my reaction to being in proper mountains again. Now, I grew up in East Anglia in the UK, very flat. For me, mountains have always been of interest because my mother is from Alsace, which meant that we occasionally used to go on holidays. In the summer, we used to go to the mountains in Alsace, in the Vosges, and some friends of hers who lived in the Black Forest, and another friend of hers who lived in Switzerland. So to me, I always miss mountains. And also, much as I like the Lake District, Wales and Scotland, I'm almost going to say we don't have real mountains here. Yeah, we do actually. There are some very serious and quite dangerous mountains in Scotland if you go at the wrong time of the year. Fools a lot of people, almost anywhere like that. Just make sure you know what you're doing. But anyway, there we go. There's a picture there. So I stopped there. I'm not going to go through a full lot of it, but I got quite a few pictures. Drove across the mountains, found a big flat bit, and then realised because I originally, years ago, used to be a geologist, so I know all about the tectonics of this, and I'd actually studied the geological maps and things of areas where I was going to go, and I still have a full set of the roadside geology of whatever state books that I use for travelling around. Yeah, classic, it's empty, and that was what it looked like. So classic views into montane basins and stuff like that. Have I noticed any significant changes in my composition over the years? I'm perhaps a bit more adventurous in things that I do, but I don't think I do too for this sort of photography now, because I do commercial photography now and architectural photography. I think about aspects of composition an awful lot more than I would have done then. And I stopped off for some breakfast. This is a place called Hartsel, some roadside place, and people didn't do photography nearly as much of shots of places like this back then. Now the idea of taking pictures of your food and things like that is old hat, but here this was quite novel for people, and I even asked the people who were there if they minded me taking a photo. Of course, English accent helps when you're doing that. You're immediately, someone just travelling the area, people start asking you about things. But anyway, just an interior. But a bit further on, Aspens. These fascinated me when I first got there, and if I was to go back to Colorado again, they would probably fascinate me again. This was a picture, and I've got loads of pictures of different pictures of it. I've kept these in colour. There's an article I wrote at the time. I put some links in the notes for various things. There's an article I wrote at the time about some of the technical differences I noticed on the trip. But a lot of the pictures I took were intended for black and white, but I've kept them in colour in these examples here. And looking at the image quality here, I can't remember what this was taken with. The pictures look just great. I've got no problem with them. Interesting enough, 11 megapixels here on that. If I put this is a 4K screen, so the picture doesn't even fully cover the screen here for it. So plenty of these. They make nice screenshots. You want to make these into big prints, needs a bit of work, but I've done lots of stuff covering that. Now, mountain streams with snow. Now, I took a lot of photos of this. My fascination with such things has declined. It's probably because this is not a scene I'm used to in Suffolk or Leicestershire or anywhere in the UK really that I go where like this. So I'm just wandering about taking pictures. Got lots of pictures of moving water and things like this, of big rocks and trees and mountains and so. Yeah, some of the pictures are quite nice. Would I take them these days? Yes, I'd take some, but I might take different photos. But it's worthwhile going back to these pictures because the technical limitations of the sensor on this, not the 11 megapixels, but the dynamic range and things like that, mean that modern software handles pictures like this so much easier than it did when I came back in 2004 using whatever version of Photoshop it was then and trying to adjust things on that. Much more difficult doing things then. It snowed one night. This is heading down towards the Great Sand Dunes. And I just love the cloud you get it. Yeah, this is at, I don't know, what are we talking, 6,000 feet, 6,000 feet or thereabouts. So relatively high. And weather changes very quickly. There'd been overnight snow, just driving down there. And there's a picture I covered recently that I took. And there is snow over there, but not on this bit here. And you just got the cottonwoods and the sagebrush and the colour and that. And like I say, I've done a video about this photo and making a print of it and various things like that, about the work that went into it. This is what it was like at the Sand Dunes National Park. can't remember whether in 2004 it was a national monument or national park, but anyway, it's the same place. And what we've got is the intermittent river that flows perhaps a few weeks to a month a year, meltwaters there. And it's fascinating. Once again, this is me as an ex-geologist coming out, looking at this, looking at a stream where the water just appears through the sand, flows, and then just disappears. It's a continually changing environment, and it's just had a nice frosting of snow dumped over it, so it's very pretty. I've got lots of beautiful looking pictures taken around here just because of the intense sky, the snow, the sand, it just worked. And if I was there today, I'd probably take many of those pictures again. I'd take more pictures. Because I don't think I've ever done a job commercially or visited somewhere and came away and thought, oh, I wish I'd not taken so many photos. That's how that goes. Telluride. No, not Telluride, Silverton. Get the right place. Yeah, I've never driven anywhere around here before. I've been to the States in the 90s and stuff, but never any around in this area here. And just seeing places like this up in the mountains, and you see there's still sort of bits of snow about. A bit of that. There's Ouray, more mountains, more small town dropped in the middle of somewhere like that. Fascinating place. Yeah, I love going around here. And of course all these rocks here. I've got my guides as to what the geology is and things like that. And it's something I enjoyed. But am I missing film at any point here? No. And this is the key point of it. I went there to become really familiar with using this camera. I think when I went there, I'd taken about 800 pictures on this. And I took some 2,000 or 3,000 whilst I was over there. It allowed me, I wasn't on a paying job, it allowed me just to get really confident with it. It's one of those reasons I don't like hiring equipment. Now, if you're doing high-end stuff and that, the economics of it mean you almost certainly do have to hire equipment. But personally, I like to be so familiar with the equipment that I don't even have to think about it. That there's no bother, hence taking out the GFX here. Now, the GFX here has got Canon TSC-24. I didn't have any tilt shift lenses with me. In fact, whilst I knew of the thing, I knew nothing about using tilt shift lenses when I had this. That means my composition today would be different, because I would be using things like this. In fact, if I was to go there sometime, I might even have this huge great thing with me, which is 30mm tilt shift from Fuji that I'm looking at, or would have been looking at if I hadn't been quite so poorly over the week. Near Crested Butte. Now, this is a picture that was taken deliberately for black and white. It does look very nice in black and white, but I went through it again and looked and decided that actually I quite like it as colour as well. Sometimes you do get pictures that you think, I'm taking this for black and white, whereas others colour. Sometimes it's always, the pictures, two different ways of looking at something to see something in colour. I say that's the colour version. I've got a black and white version of it which I printed, which looks great as a big print. So that's for that. Oh, what a surprise, more aspens. The aspens is a different part of Colorado, so the aspens have a slightly different look to the eyes on them. And that's the bit that always gets me. It's that look of almost like eyes on them. You wander into a small grove of aspens and there are eyes watching you all around. So yeah, I like doing that. This is Leadville. Now, Leadville is about 11,000 feet. Karen greatly dislikes this place. We went there once and she really did not like the altitude. It really got to her, caused problems. Can't remember what calf this is, but it had changed, I think, when I last went there with Karen. But anyway, just sat there, had a coffee, watching out in the street. Now, this shot, to make a print of this in 2004, took a lot of work. Open it up in a modern RAW converter and you can handle the differences in brightness so much easier. Yes, it is so much easier these days with the software. But I still say, If you think digital is too easy compared with film, you're not trying hard enough. Now I'm now into Wyoming here. Now this picture I've also used for many years. I stopped because of the bright orange coloured rocks. No surprise there. But this picture I've used to explain colour filtering of digital images in turning from colour to black and white quite a lot, because the strong colours in it make a real difference in different ways of how you might want to convert from colour to black and white. And I've used this one as an example for years, loads of articles and various things, just because it is such a wide range of colours, and they're all real colours as well. This hasn't been cranked up at all. It really was, the colours were like that. That's why I stopped to take the picture. The emptiness of driving across Wyoming. That, I believe, is the Sawtooth Range. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up and work out where it was. But it was just driving for miles. I was on my own on this trip, just driving around. Anything I saw of interest, took photos of. Well, not quite anything, because I can remember lots of things I did which I haven't got photographs of. Which is interesting to think that has changed. And also, if I was there now, I'd have a reasonable phone with me. So a lot of sort of snaps and things like that, I would include my set of photos of that trip as a combination of ones from this collection, taken with this, and also with a few context photos and other, personal interest photos taken with a phone, where I might not have wanted to take it with that. I mean, yeah, that's huge. This is still pretty big. This is, yeah. That's one thing I do miss sometimes. Just the small size of a camera like this. Produce me a digital version of this, please, so that I can use my old lenses and things like that. Yeah, that would be nice. But anyway, Wind River. Another picture I've used for testing for black and white. It's just the contrast, the cottonwoods, first leaves coming out on the cottonwoods. So this is now there. And some other pictures that I've used since and used for processing. It's the Tetons. I was mightily impressed as a range of mountains by the Tetons. They're mountains from central casting. They are impressive, and when you've got bits of cloud dancing around like this, with bits being revealed, disappearing and popping into it, I've made quite a few black and white prints from this. But this, once again, this is a colour image. There isn't much colour in it, but it's worth noticing that it's there. The picture quality is excellent. And of course, if I was going there, I was obviously going to go into Yellowstone. Now, once again, my interest as a geologist, walking over an absolute supersized volcano like that, thinking, how close is that lava, is that magma underneath us? And I wonder how overdue, if overdue, this place is to blow up, because that'll make a right mess if it ever goes off. But anyway, just nothing but touristy shots. And the thing is, if I go places, I still take pictures like this just for the hell of it. Now, I like taking pictures, I like taking a camera like this with me, because every so often I'm going to assume that one of those pictures or more is going to make a nice print. And I've always got an eye for an image to make a print of, because as far as I'm concerned, you need to print something for it to be a proper photograph. Another shot of it, bubbling water, steam, whatever. It's an impressive place. Karen's never been here, so if we can get over the altitude problem, I think she'd enjoy a visit to it. It is just, a fascinating place, and Anyway, just one or two more. This is near Steamboat Springs. After I'd been up in Wyoming, I sort of drifted down back into Colorado. This is near Steamboat Springs, Fish Creek Falls. Picture I took showing where the falls are in the hills and various bits and pieces. Might look familiar if you've seen some of my videos, because a photograph taken from another location is this print here. There we go. One I printed recently when I was testing the P5300 or 5370 in the States. Now, this picture is a crop from a photograph taken on this camera, 11 megapixels. That's all you need. Just goes to show, in a way, the technology doesn't count that much. Makes it easier. Obviously, having a good lens on the camera really helped. But yeah, I've got prints that I've taken from that trip, and I've still got around the place that I use. This little place near Steamboat Springs. I'm told that used to be a school or something, but that I took. Although you've got the colours of the, early spring sagebrush and everything there, that was one of the ones that I intended to be black and white right from the start. And I suppose I could end up on a classic shot of an aspen. Yeah, I would still take pictures like this. It's fun to go back, find a trip you made somewhere. Just go through the pictures. Look for ones you may not have tried before. See if there's anything you can learn from it. If you do prints, look for something that you think might make a good print. Could be black and white. Now, these I've shown uncropped. Almost all pictures I do in prints, I often end up cropping somewhat. That's because I don't necessarily want the aspect ratio. So I will use what works. But there we have the classic eye aspen. And that is that. Oh, I should finish off really on a view. This was just the day before I came back. Just somewhere looking over. There's somewhere not that far from Denver up in the mountains. I can't even remember where. But yeah, mix of clouds and everything like that. But what's really changed? Well, me, like anyone's going to change in 20 years. My interests, my tastes change. But it's fascinating to see pictures I took 20 years ago. Technically, they're good. Yeah, there's some awful ones as well. I haven't shown those. I did say I was getting used to using the camera. If you want to get used to a new camera, just take it out and use it. Just do something with it. These ones are not challenging autofocus or anything like that. I could have done with many of these, could be taken with any old lens. Now, the one lens that I used then that I didn't keep was the EF1635 f2.8L wide angle zoom. That really shows its limitations. This one I'll still use. This one, I don't know, because this isn't the same lens, it is the same model. And the 1635, yes, I sold that when I got the Canon 1DS Mark II. So there you have it. I hope that's been some interest. I'm glad my voice held up for a bit for this. I'm going to finish this coffee off now. And if you've got any questions, please do ask. I like an excuse just to look through old pictures and things, because I haven't been able to do any work of much for the last week or so, and it gets boring. Thanks for watching. Bye.